Waited for it, and here he is, Liam O'Brien. Want to say hi?
Howdy ho, everybody. I'm calling from my closet.
Well, it's probably a very nicely set up closet.
It's the only place in my house that is, it's my little nerd cave. I'm surrounded by a couple of action figures and a signed poster from the X-Men, from all of our cast of the X-Men, and our bills, and boxes of pictures, so.
Well, the bills part doesn't sound that fun, but the action figures and the poster, that's plus.
It's all I got left. I used to, when I was a younger man, before I was even working in this industry, I was and am a geek, and I had the typical shelf or several shelves with action figures, and then I got a girlfriend who later became my wife, and the shelf went from 5 shelves to 4 shelves to 1 shelf to no shelf, and now that was back in New York, now we're in LA, and I keep it all hidden in my box, my little box.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's all right. My kids would tear them to pieces anyway. I have a 3-year-old boy and a little girl, so.
Well, in relation to posters, before you came on the show,
yeah,
we had a contest for a Naruto poster, and I'm going to announce the winner for that. It's really awesome. The winner is Christopher Shaw. Thank you for entering. And you're going to get yourself a free Naruto poster. Go you.
Yeah, Christopher.
So, yeah. Everybody knows you from Naruto. You play sort of the Gaara character.
Yeah.
And how was your experience on a show that's so immensely popular?
Oh, I love it. I'm really attached to Naruto. I started just acting on it, and as time went on, I also joined the writing crew for it, so I do the adaptation from raw translation into the English scripts we do for the show, and then whenever our grand dame Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who's a talented actor and director, she directs the show mainly. When she's not there, I often pick up the slack, so I'm kind of glued to the show, and I love it. And I have read all the manga there is to read, and I love Gaara. There are very few times when you go into audition where you get what you aimed for. Jobs come from your agent, or you find them how you find them, but you don't go, people always ask me, how do you choose the roles you chose? Well, you don't, you just get auditions, and they try you for 3 or 4 things, and they plug you where they like you. But I remember the audition that day, and there was all the sides on the table, and Orochimaru was in there, a bunch of people were in there, but I looked at the little red-haired kid with murder in his eyes and thought, yeah, that's the one I want, and landed him. I miss the murderer days, but I'm enjoying where we're at now too.
You really seem to like those characters that have a sort of violent streak, I guess I could call it.
Yeah, either sadistic or just a fop, 2 ends of the spectrum.
Is that just because it's fun for you to act that out, or do you find some sort of weird relation to them?
No, it's just fun to chew the scenery, I think. We most of the time, especially for video games these days, unless it's military, everything is very pulled back. A lot of it's like an episode of 24. So when you get to do the extreme, which is to, become a giant cookie dough monster and ravage everything in front of you, or be a very spastic or maybe even a little flamey, foppish character, you just get to go broader than normal. That's fun. I like subtle and underplayed too, and I certainly do a lot of it, but I tend to be remembered for the scenery eating.
Well, those are the most memorable parts. We love imitating those silly-like in our classrooms, so. But you've recently actually released a lot of video games and done a lot of video game work lately, such as Darksiders, which came out yesterday.
I know. I'm salivating to play it myself.
I haven't played it yet. I was thinking about it last night. I was like, I should have rented that. And then I'm sad because I really don't know the story. Could you explain a little bit about the story and your character to me?
Sure thing. Darksiders is the brainchild of Joe Mad, comic book creator Joe Mad, who when I was younger and still collected comic books, was a huge fan of. He's just got a very, very distinct style and just a lot of attention to detail. And he moved from comic books. He did the comic book Battle Chasers, he worked on X-Men, and then he eventually moved from the comic world to the video game world. I don't know if for good, but Darksiders is his baby. He came up with the story and obviously did all the artwork for it, and he has told the story of the apocalypse, basically. takes place after we're all gone, so people don't even really factor it into it too much. The apocalypse has hit the Earth, and it wasn't supposed to. It's a bit of a mystery. War gets dropped down prematurely. Everything's been messed up, and he sort of unravels what happened, why he was called early. He also should have shown up with his other 3 horsemen, but it was just him. So, you know, the sort of buzzwords that they're using for the game are God of War meets Legend of Zelda. So it's got that same sort of combat-heavy, very smooth combo feel from God of War, but then all the exploration and the puzzling of the Zelda series, which is, you know, it's like Reese's peanut butter cups. You get your chocolate, my peanut butter, no, my peanut butter, and your chocolate. And everything I've read in advance has been, you know, I knew that the cutscenes were going to be amazing, but that doesn't tell me how the game was going to be ultimately. You never know until the thing is released. You know, everything has to be right. You know, the production, the graphics have to be great, the gameplay has to be great, the voice acting hopefully is great, and it seems like from everything I read that it all kind of came together.
Which is awesome, because everybody loves Legend of Zelda and then everybody loves God of War. So to have those two mesh together, it'll be a really interesting experience.
Yeah, I mean, they picked 2 good people to crib notes from. Better that than, I don't know, Pong and Barbie Shopping Pony Express.
Would you have been in a game called Barbie Shopping Pony Express?
I have been in a couple girly games and kiddie games, and they're a nice change of pace. I always forget what I'm allowed to talk about and not talk about, so I won't name any names of games, but I've played like little critters and just made sounds like as opposed to, you know, war.
I'm obsessed with that game. I had no idea you were in that. I have it downloaded on my PlayStation 3, and they're so cute. And for whatever reason, I now I'm gonna have to picture you when I see that. And usually I picture characters like War.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what that's the beauty of the voice acting. Is we get to go play in a different sort of universe and landscape every day. And I'm just a skinny schlep of a guy, but I get to be, you know, a big beefy horseman of the apocalypse, or I get to be a 10-year-old who can take people out with sand. It's just something different every day, which is nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to be a series regular on a TV show and get to explore a role, but you know, if you are on a long-running show, you're in that role for a long time, and that's all you know. But if you're doing the kind of job that I do, or the other people that you've been interviewing, Crispin and Vic, I don't know who else you're bringing in, but we get to be somebody else, sometimes multiple times a day. And I basically am being paid to play for a living, and I'm very, very grateful for it.
Well, it must be such an awesome job, because while you said you get to play, but you still kind of get to be a child too.
Absolutely. It's a Peter Pan. It's a Peter Pan life. Except when it's Call of Duty, and you're screaming grenade get down and bogey at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then it feels like work. But everything else, pretty good.
Crispin actually mentioned that when he was on the show. He was talking about his role of God of War, and then he got into grenades and whatnot. And it seems like all you guys are additional voices in any of the war games out there.
Yeah, well, people out here tend to use anyone who is fast and good and sane and a pleasure to work with. So it's the same number of people. And the gaming, the reactions and the getting punched in the face and then the punching someone else in the face and then yelling grenade get down, it's sort of its own vocabulary and language, and there's some of us who just get it. I don't know if it's a combination of us playing a lot of games and being good actors and putting those two things together, but we'll get used a lot. And then gaming is just transforming from what it's been. You know, not everything, but there's more and more military games each year, and they always need 30 to 40 different guys voicing it. So it's almost once a week now, and it can be a little panic-inducing, because if I have to do something that's subtle and soft on Friday, and I get booked for Call of Duty 87 on Thursday, I have to really start sweating if I'm going to be able to, you know, do that softer, subtle thing the next day. Typically, you know, we beg to do that kind of stuff towards the end of the week, because then we'll maybe have the weekend to recover. And I used to sweat it. I used to think in my head, oh God, maybe I'm the only guy in town who doesn't know how to do this safely. I don't really know if there is a way to do it safely. It's more, and I'm a director, so I know this from experience. It's more, I think, in the hands of the producers and the directors knowing what a human body and a human voice can take, and keeping those sessions shorter and not doing like 8 takes on, battalion, get down, because if you have the right actor in the room, there's only so many times you need to do it. So you want to be, fast, get in and get out and get your war screams, because there's a toll to be paid.
Have you ever been in a situation where you were trying to do the Call of Duty 87 or whatever it might be, and then the next day you couldn't do the next part, or you couldn't do it at the best you could?
Probably once or twice. I mean, I've done at this point 20 or 25 games like what we're talking about, and I think one time I did actually have to call in and ask to be rescheduled. And most people are cool. Most people understand, where it's a Bedouin lifestyle that we have out here. You don't have one source of employment. You're getting it from multiple places, and you don't generally, voicing video games, know what you're going to get until you show up. And I've been told, I always have my agents ask, or I'll ask, is this going to be heavy or is this going to be light? Am I going to be screaming a lot or no? And it often happens that you're told it's not going to be bad, and it's really bad. So we do a lot of tap dancing. Not often. I can do it. I can pull it off.
Well, that's good to hear, because we don't want your vocals to be wrecked and then favorite characters go away.
We all joke that it's just preparing us for promo work later in life so that we can all do the inner world. As we slowly scrape away at our vocal cords over time.
So the trailer voice is definitely what's going to be your next big thing then.
Yeah, we're grooming the trailer voice for the future.
Wonderful. And so I'm going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit on Liam being a vocal director, so stay tuned.
Later.
91.8 The Fan, home of Kana's Korner, the #1 live anime radio talk show. Interviews, guests, contests, and more. Don't miss your favorite voice actors, celebrities, and all your other favorites. Only on Kana's Korner. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Welcome back to Kana's Korner. I'm still here with Liam O'Brien. He hasn't left. I didn't fangirl him away like last time.
Well, I do have an escape hatch if need be. I just pull a lever and I shoot down into the earth like Voltron.
That's pretty awesome, actually. Can you transform too?
Yeah, the music starts. It goes da na 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 na, and then I meet fellow voice actor Sam Riegel somewhere under LA, and we get into our Go Lions and take to the skies.
That's cool. All you're missing now is like a cape.
Right. No, I have that.
Oh, okay. Then fine. We're all set.
It's chartreuse. It's a little sparkly. I'm glad that we're not doing video because it might actually blind the audience.
Don't look at Liam O'Brien directly. He will blind.
Don't look directly into the cape.
Well, what I did want to ask, though, is you recently voice directed Resident Evil The Dark Side Chronicles as well as Resident Evil 5. And you've been talking about voice acting, but how is voice directing different?
Well, voice acting in a way is easier because all you have to worry about is you. And really with these projects, when you're working on animation, you're working on games, and you come in and oftentimes, most times, the project is only sort of there to look at. Everything is being made somewhere. So it's up to whoever the director is to walk the actor through. So you're just trusting whoever is on the other side of the glass. They know what the finished picture is. When you're directing voice actors for a game or for animation, you kind of have to have the whole radio play in your head and keep track of, like, if you've recorded actors A, B, and C in a scene, and then you bring in actor D, let's do this in reverse. If you bringing in actor A in, and you start directing them, you have to, in your head, have at least a general idea of where you're going to try to get B, C, and D so that everything matches. Otherwise, you could end up having actor A yelling at the top of his lungs, and then actor B and C very low key, and then it would seem like things aren't matching up. The ideal world, what they did with, say, Uncharted, is to have all the actors in the room, motion captured voice all at once, and I think we're moving more in that direction with a lot of games. I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And there's no beating that organic scene work that you're going to get, but we still have a ton of, and we're going to have for a long time, one actor at a time. And as a director, you got to have everything, juggled in your head and keeping track of it all. It's a lot harder work, at least on the brain, because you're trying to keep a lot of plates up in the air. But you also have a better idea of the whole project. Resident Evil, I played Resident Evil 4, I played Resident Evil 2. I haven't played every single one, but I'm still a huge fan of the series. Way before I got into this industry even, or maybe when I was just starting. So to be asked to direct it was a big honor for me, and I was really, really happy to do it. And so, I watched everything that they gave me and read the script a couple of times and just got it all in my head. And then tried to drag the actors along for the ride.
Now, do you ever have to make a decision about what someone says against the original translation?
Well, it's different for every game. Sometimes, as a director, you get a really polished script that needs no work. And that's always the easiest. You're just, you're worrying about the performance. Sometimes you'll get something that has been brought in that was that is like 60% there, that the dialogue sounds mostly good, but there's a couple of, things that look different on the page than when they're spoken out loud. And you'll often find that out when you get in, get there on the day and have the actors start talking. So there is a lot of changing on the fly, not a ton, but just smoothing things out or seeing what works a little more naturally with the actor. I never get a raw translation on the day of recording. That's something I deal with as the writer. When I work on Naruto, I get just a raw translation. Some are better than others, but oftentimes it's I kill you with sword. And
English for the win.
So you got to make that work both as English dialogue, and then you got to make it work to match the flappa flappa, flappa flappa, pause, flappa flappa. You don't want to end a sentence that ends with a big open mouth with the word broom. It's sort of like unlocking a Rubik's Cube, the anime adaptation. But go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. As the director, have you ever had to bring in one voice actor in again because they weren't matching the others the right way?
Well, hopefully you get that in pickups. You don't really ever want to, that's a problem if you run into that. So, you do your best to get everybody sort of on the same page, and then you watch it all back and say, okay, how did we do? And I've heard people all the way at the top of the game in animation, even Andrea Romano, who does all the Batmans, everything for Warner Brothers, who I highly respect. She even talks about what's important are the pickups. So you do your best, you lay it all down, you see how it matches up to the picture, which comes in later, and you go, ooh, if we could just go and tweak here and have him be a little bit bigger there, and that second pass, that time is really what brings something up from like a B plus to an A plus, I think.
Right, and you have, I would assume you have a little bit more at stake being the director, because if you make any major mistakes, that's a lot of time and money lost.
Yeah, and it's on you. If you're the actor, if you're not that good, if you're not just quick on the fly, well, you don't get brought in again, maybe, but it's you don't really have to sweat it if that doesn't match. You do your job. Hopefully the director has directed you, and if the performance is way off, well, that came from higher up the chain than you. But when you're the director, you're higher up the chain, so it's up to you to keep everything on track. So yeah, there's a little bit more of a stress level, but I don't want to make it sound like I'm disarming bombs or anything. It's still a blast to direct Jill Valentine, running away from a horde of zombie dogs.
Now, I have a question. Do you know who I can blame for in Resident Evil 5 the come on, hurry, come on?
Oh, you mean like hitting the button so that you can call your person over?
Yes, me and another DJ, actually, or another person of the staff, we play all the time. And I was terrible at the game in the beginning, and he had played it at least 5 times. And every time I was slow, he'd hit that button. So it's become like my annoyance button now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the way that must work, I'm guessing, is that they allowed for one slot for a voice to pop out for that command. Maybe the way around it would have been to have 5 slots with slight variation, but I guess you'd have to write, listen, I'm no math wizard, you'd probably have to write some sort of algorithm that would realize it's a high stress moment, a less than high stress moment, so that, if you're just walking along and going down a path and there's no one around, it would be, come on. And if there's 50 guys chasing you, it'd be, come on! I don't know how that works in implementation.
Oh, I have no idea either. I was just curious because we were joking about it, and I was like, maybe I can blame him.
I remember recording though for all that stuff, and I'm like, well, should we do multiple? I don't know how many variations they use, but I said, well, maybe we should do like a small calm and a small panicked, and then like a medium calm, come on over here, and a medium panic, and so on and so forth. And we did a lot of that. I don't know how much got used.
I think they used about 3 or 4. Yeah. I wouldn't say they used any more than that.
Resident Evil 5, my favorite line, hands down, I need an egg. It was just fun to record the variations of. We had actors going, I need an egg. I need an egg. I need an egg. I need an egg. I need an egg.
It's like code name for a drug, when really it's just a health item.
Right. Maybe they need cat therapy.
So now, how is the Darksider Chronicles, the Resident Evil Darksider Chronicles, different from Resident Evil 5?
Well, directing-wise, just sort of the process of making it was very different. Darkside Chronicles was more traditional ADR. I mean, we didn't even see their faces for most of it. There were a few cutscenes where we were doing stuff to picture. When you record, there's a couple ways of recording. There's just wild, prelay, where you record the voice. Maybe you're worried about timing or pacing, but you're not worried about exact delivery because there's no picture yet. And then there's ADR. That's where you've got a picture in front of you that you're working off of, and your voice has to either match body movement or even the duration, the length of the flapping mouth. With Darkside Chronicles, the animation was very hazy when we were getting to it. We didn't have to be that exact for what little on picture there was, and then most of it was off screen because you're looking at the screen. It's from your point of view with a light gun. Resident Evil 5 was the craziest directing job I've ever had. It was so many plates spinning. For our cutscenes, we would often have one actor. They would shoot the cutscenes, which I didn't have anything to do with. I was just voice director on the project. But Jim Sorenzo was the director for English cinematics. And they mapped out all the cutscenes, and he directed the actors in space. And let's say, let's take Chris in that game. Ruben Langdon, the actor Ruben Langdon, did Chris for the motion capture end. He's a great physical actor, good friend, and he did that end of it. And he motion captured it. Then he passed the baton. We did in voiceover. We then had Roger Craig Smith, who's another good friend, a great voice actor. Sounds like America to me. He came in and did the voiceover. Now, he didn't just voice like we normally do with ADR. We dotted up his face for facial capture as well. So we would play the scene for him, and he would be watching the scene and sort of matching the picture and the body movements he was seeing with his voice. Then also, something we're almost never asked to do, we asked him to think of what you're doing with your face, because your facial performance is going to be glued onto the moving body. So in a way, it was like we took Ruben Langdon's body running around, and then we peeled Roger's facial expressions off and glued it onto that moving body. And what made it hard was, most of the time you're just saying, did it sound right? All right, it's in the can. But this time, if Roger's voice was spot on, but maybe his face had a little weirdo twitch somewhere in there, well, we couldn't use it. Or if his face was really intense and matched the moment exactly, but his voice cracked or he tripped up, we couldn't use it. So we had to sort of satisfy both needs. And it took a lot to get it just right. And I think that's why it came out so well in the end. Sometimes when you're working on these games, you're just looking at a massive Excel spreadsheet with all your lines on it, and you're just going. Keep giving an A and a B take, and maybe they'll ask for a third, and you're just going boom, 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 and hopefully the director is keeping you on point. But Resident Evil 5 was a lot closer to a real film shoot. There was just a lot of layers to it, and it shows.
Was that the only time you got to do motion capture, or have you been able to do it beforehand?
Directing, you mean?
Just in general, in your career.
I did motion capture work as an actor myself for Devil May Cry 4. Which I got to go to Tokyo for, which rocked. I played the elderly priest, bad guy in it.
That must have been an awesome experience to basically travel around the world and then go to, I guess you could say, the anime capital.
Yeah, definitely. It was amazing. I only regret that it wasn't longer, and the work was amazing, and we were locked up in this building doing it. I didn't get to see as much of Tokyo as I would have liked, but I did see a lot. And then the work was great. I mean, it really was like a film shoot, except we were trapped in this one room. And and imagining everything around us. But I loved it, and I'm itching to go back.
That'll be awesome if you get the chance, and you can kind of brag to all your fans who generally want to do that themselves one day.
Yeah.
Now, out of curiosity, did you actually voice anyone in Devil May Cry, or did you just do the motion capture?
No, I voiced him too. I voiced the old part as well.
So did you do that before or after the motion capture?
After. We did, we motion captured it. We did one pass where we acted it out in space together, in the empty room together. Then we did sort of a second pass there where they trained a camera on our face while we watched the scene played back, and we sort of, I guess to give them an initial template to start working on facial animation. And then when we got back, they had glued it all together, and we were looking at a video of ourselves walking around, in a long shot, almost as if we were watching a play. And then in the corner, you would see your own face acting along with it. So you had one eyeball trained on the bodies in space and one eyeball trained on the little corner picture of yourself, and trying to make it all work. It's very technical, and the trick to all this work is not sounding technical as you do something, which is very much so.
At least it's not as damaging as yelling grenade 50 times.
Yeah, I'll take that any day. And it's all very pioneer time right now with the way video games are going for production. It used to be, again, what I'm saying, the Excel spreadsheet, you go boom, boom, boom down the page. But as these games get more sophisticated and more cinematic, and the scenes that are in them, even in-game, no one's doing it the same way. Some people are doing the motion capture first and doing the voice afterwards, and there's like 5 variations of that. And then the way they're doing it with Uncharted, and I hope happens more, because again, it's the most organic process out there, having the actors do it together in space, and just miking them while they're doing it. And auditions are different too, because it's not even the same as doing an on-camera audition where you're just worried about sort of acting and being in space. With these things, I don't know, you're worrying about a vocal performance, which is really not the exact same thing as an on-camera performance, but then also worrying about sort of the physical performance you're doing. I have a good / scary story for auditioning for another game, which I won't say the title, but I'll tell you the experience I had. Same people who did Devil May Cry 4, I went to audition for another game for a military soldier. And one of the ways I sometimes prepare for an audition when I have to memorize lines, which I don't do as much anymore since I'm primarily in the voiceover world, is I'll record it into a tape player. I guess it would be an iPod now, but it was still a tape player at this point. And I just run the scene in my ears, and I sort of talk it out just to memorize, the timing and the lines of it. And I was in a sort of a back alley street in Burbank or Glendale in California, where this production studio was, and I was just working on what I was going to do. I was running the lines, and the soldier in this scene has a gun, and he's holding it up to somebody's head as he's talking. So I've got this black tape recorder in my hand, and I'm doing my lines, and I'm lifting just so I can, memorize the motions that I want to do and not think about it in the audition. I'm lifting this small black tape recorder up in my hand and acting as if I'm aiming it, at somebody's head while I'm saying these lines. Well, I'm in a back street. It's not like I'm not in danger or anything, but it's, not there's no Starbucks or anything anywhere.
Right.
It's just a back street. And I'm doing this for like 20 minutes. And just as I think, okay, I'm ready, I'm going into audition, I start walking towards the building that I'm going to be in. Cop car pulls up.
Oh,
comes up and says, excuse me, sir. Could you put the papers down, put the tape recorder down? And at this point, he's looking in my hand and sees I'm holding a tape recorder. He says, walk back towards me, backwards. So hands behind the back, walk backwards. Somebody had seen me in the street with this black thing in my hand and thought that I was wielding a gun, a Glock around in the street. And they called the cops, and this policeman came in. Multiple cop cars came in because they were thinking there's some, lunatic in the street with a gun. I had to walk back towards this guy. I knew immediately what had happened, but he cuffed me. He brought me over to his cop car. It wasn't rough or anything. He was just very methodical and slow. He's like, could you just lean over the car for a second? And I said, sure. I didn't say anything. I didn't argue. I just wanted him to realize there was no gun on me, take his own time to figure that out. And then he's like, someone called in with a gun. Do you have a gun? Where'd you put it? And I was like, here's what happened, officer. And I just told him the story I told you. I'm going into that building right there. And by the end of it, the guy was laughing. And another cop car pulled up, and he's like, no, call it off. He's an actor. Yeah. And then by the end of it, they're wish me good luck with the audition, which I didn't book.
Oh, well, at least you got that amazing story to tell people. I kind of feel bad, though, that you were actually cuffed and...
It was a little nerve-wracking, but it's not like I got roughed up or anything. And again, if I were ever sitting on Letterman's couch, or here, right now, that's my story.
Well,
Actually, I think this is the first time I've ever told it to someone not in the industry.
Wonderful. We got a 918 fan exclusive, and we'll work on getting that couch, too. That way you can, show people your cape, your blinding cape, and sit on us as a couch. But we're going to go take a short break, and we'll be right back. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Careful with those tape recorders, folks.
Yeah, they're not guns. They're not playthings. 918thefan.com. Have you logged on today?
Who, me? No. No?
iStock's daily news show, video reviews, articles, forums, and an anime directory. Don't get left behind. Log in today. Only on
918thefan.com?
918thefan.com.
All right, 918thefan.com.
Hey, we're back. And guess who's sitting in Kanashumi's corner today? It's Liam O'Brien. Don't you know?
Blood, my blood!
Okay, he might be dying in the corner today.
Sorry, I had to...
Oh, okay. Was it a paper cut?
Yeah.
Well, I was curious, what other projects are you working on right now?
Well, of the things that I can talk about, Dragon Age Origins just came out, folks. If you play through, I just started. Again, I'm a gamer geek with no time to play games. It's a good thing I make them, but you'll find me as a really sad sack, depressed mage in there somewhere. What else? It's from the last year, I guess I'll go over. You can still find me in episodes of Wolverine and the X-Men as Nightcrawler and Angel. We're waiting to get underway on season 2. Really proud of my work in Afro Samurai Resurrection. I'm sort of a character. My character's sort of an homage to Lone Wolf and Cub. Love that. And then also you can find me on TV helping sell pistachio nuts. If you go to YouTube or to my website, liamobrien.biz, and poke around, you'll find a link to the Wonderful Pistachios Get Crackin' campaign with Levi Johnston and Dominatrixes and one of the Bradys and lots of other people helping sell nuts. They're quirky. They're fun.
Out of curiosity, is that not safe for work, or?
The pistachio commercials? No, those are safe for work. I mean, one of them does have a woman in a bustier, she's a dominatrix, and she whips a pistachio open, but it's nothing that you couldn't get away with at work.
All right, cool. Just so we can clarify, and no 13-year-olds are on the computer right now at school looking for that website.
It's not maximum risky. Is there anything else going on? I don't know. Just keep playing Darksiders. All the reviews are kicking ass. And for fans of Resident Evil and RE5, I believe that the next story in it, I think it's downloadable content for the game, is coming pretty soon. And,
is it the Resident Evil, I think it's 5 Golden Edition?
Yeah, I haven't been following exactly how they're releasing it. I think in Japan it's going to come out in a box, but here it's DLC. It's going to be downloadable content.
I actually might have notes on it. I work at a video game store. We have a release on it. It's called Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, March 10th. And it seems like you can get a download voucher for it.
Oh, okay.
So.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah, that is pretty soon. So you guys want to check that out.
Yeah, and it's a nice, it's an alternate angle on the story. You get to follow Jill a little more closely. That's one of the two things you can do. You follow Jill a little more closely during the story of RE5, and then there's some backstory as well, which you get to play through.
Awesome. I will make sure to download that. Now, how do we stalk you? Because a lot of our fanatics here are awesome stalkers.
Main place to go, the main hub is my website, liamobrien.biz. That will have links to my Twitter account, my Facebook fan page. I get a lot of traffic coming to my personal Facebook page, which is just for friends in the industry and family and stuff. Don't have hurt feelings if I send you to the other one. I just like to keep the two separate. And so Twitter, Facebook, liamobrien.biz, and that is probably it. Yeah.
Well, awesome. It was wonderful having you on the show, and we'll make sure to post this glorious interview up later on the website because who doesn't want to hear about sparkly capes and getting almost beat down by a cop?
Maybe if I'd had that. Well, I don't know. You think the sparkly cape would have helped me or hurt me in that situation?
I think they would have wanted to glare upon your gloriousness, and so they would have tried to look into the blindness of the cape.
Yeah, split down the middle for me. Could mean I'm a harmless nut, or it could mean that I'm a Sylar-esque supervillain.
Well, if you are a supervillain, do you have an evil laugh?
An evil laugh? That's all I do.
Before we get off the air, though, I was wondering if you'd be willing to do a bump for us.
Sure.
All I was wondering if you could say, it's sort of a 918 The Fan tradition that we get this from our guests at the end of the show, but would you be willing to say, this is Liam O'Brien, voice of your choice, and you're tuned in to 918 The Fan?
Sure. Are we still live?
We are definitely still live, so they will hear your mess-ups.
Hold on, I'm typing it out. This is Liam O'Brien, star of Fill in the Blank. And you are listening, finish that off for me. Listening to?
You are tuned in to 918 The Fan.
You are tuned to, undo. You are, this is going to make for awesome radio.
It's awesome radio. They love the goof ups.
918 The Fan?
918 The Fan.
Okay. This is Liam O'Brien, voice of War in Darksiders, and you are tuned into 918 The Fan.
Wonderful. We will definitely use that. Thank you so much. And I'm sure they enjoyed the clumsy typing too.
Tickety-tackety.
But thank you for joining the show, and we're tuning out. But later, I have Gia from Anime Vice coming on, so stay tuned for more music.
Ciao, Bella.